A deep dive into the life of Charlie Kirk, from founding Turning Point USA to rising as one of America's most influential conservative voices, ending with the shocking event of his death in Utah, what led to his prominence, what controversies surrounded him, and how did the final day unfold. If you enjoy historical, political narratives, analysis, or biographies, please do not hesitate to hit the subscribe button for more. Charlie James Kirk was born on the 14th of October 1993 in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He was a young man with ambition, strong convictions, and an instinct for controversy. Over his short life, a relatively short one, ending September 2025, Kirk became one of America's most polarizing conservative activists, founder of Turning Point USA, media personality, a devoted Christian nationalist, staunch defender of Trumpism. Today, I'm going to trace his journey, how he rose, what he stood for, the clashes he provoked, and finally, how his life came to a tragic and shocking end. This is the story of Charlie Kirk. So, growing up in the Chicago suburbs, Kirk's political consciousness was shaped at an early age. By age 18 in 2012, he co-founded Turning Point USA, also known as TPUSA, a conservative student organization aimed at promoting free market ideas, challenging what he and his allies saw as liberal dominance in campus culture, and fighting what they called indoctrination. He aggressively built TPUSA's profile. The organization rolled out initiatives like the Professor Watch List and School Board Watch List, tools intended to, in quote, call out college professors or school board members they believed were, propagating left-wing ideologies. This effort won him support among conservative donors, but also fierce criticism from opponents who argued he misrepresented people, stoked division, or even spread misinformation. As TPUSA grew, so did Kirk's personal brand. It was visible on college campuses, in media, and over time earned himself a position as one of the leading voices of what came to be known broadly as the, in quotes, MAGA youth movement. Over the years, Kirk expanded his reach. He launched Turning Point Action, a political advocacy arm. He had podcasts, radio shows, and in 2022 began hosting the Charlie Kirk Show, a daily talk show style program. By 2024, his podcast was reportedly being downloaded between 500,000 and 750,000 times a day. His positions covered a broad conservative agenda, strong support for the Second Amendment, sharp criticism of critical race theory, skepticism about climate change policies, opposition to many progressive social policies. Some of his statements drew intense backlash. For example, remarks about the acceptability of some gun deaths as a cost to preserve gun rights. This is a very delicate matter, and I'm not going to say too much about that, okay? Kirk also steeped in Christian nationalist rhetoric. He pushed for the idea that America should maintain a Christian identity, not just in culture, but in how religion overlays public life and policy. This theological and political blending was both a source of deep support from some and serious concern from others. So you guys understand where this controversy about him is originating from. Through many campus speaking tours, debates, and public appearances, he became a pivotal figure in conservative activism among youth. His style was combative, provocative, media savvy. Supporters saw him as bold, fearless, unafraid to challenge liberal elites. Critics saw him as divisive, sometimes misleading, and skilled at stoking outrage. So in the build up to 2025, the American comeback tour. So this is a tour that Charlie started, okay? As 2024 and 2025 progressed, Kirk remained very, very busy. He was closely allied with Donald Trump, President of the United States, supporting the campaign, helping energize youth turnout, contributing to the conservative narrative on campus speech. TPUSA events drew large crowds, viral videos, social media storms. In fall of 2025, he began a tour called the American Comeback Tour, a multi-campus speaking series aimed at reinforcing conservative youth activism in colleges around the US. Part debate, part media spectacle, part outreach. Kirk's style was to invite questions live, to provoke debates, under the label, in quote, "prove me wrong." Controversial? Yes, but for Kirk, that was part of the mission, to engage, to challenge, to spark conversation, and that is not a wrong thing to do, right? So let's discuss about the events leading to the shooting that eventually, sadly took his life. So it was on the 10th of September. It was on the 10th of September 2025. The first stop of the American Comeback Tour was at Utah Valley University (UVU) in Orem, Utah. Approximately 3,000 people gathered outdoors. The event was under a white tent marked in quote, "Prove me wrong." Kirk was answering live audience questions. The atmosphere was tense, loud, media charged. Around 12:10 p.m. local time, just a few minutes after the event began, during a Q&A session, someone asked Kirk about mass shootings involving transgender people. He replied with a question of his own, in quotes, "Counting or not counting gang violence?" And at that moment, a pow shot rang out. He was struck in the neck. Video footage, which I'm not going to be sharing here, shows him clutching his neck.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
This was the shot that claimed the life of Charlie Kirk.
Oh my God. Wait, Cody, go, run. Where is he?
Sparking pandemonium on a college campus where he'd been speaking.
Apparently there's been a shooting. I don't know who's been shot.
Hundreds fled in terror.
Blood visible and collapsing. Panic followed. Audience members scattered. Security and staff rushed him off stage. He was taken to hospital in critical condition. Within hours, the news broke. Charlie Kirk was dead. He was only 31 years old. There's been a lot of reactions after this news of his death broke. The death is a very, very sad one. He was only 31. So the death of Charlie Kirk was met with shock, mourning, outrage across the political spectrum. President Donald Trump released a statement calling Kirk, in quotes, "great, legendary," saying no one understood the youth of America better than him. Flags were ordered to be flown at half staff. Leaders, supporters, critics alike expressed their grief and concern about the broader implications for political discourse and violence in the United States. Guys, what do you think about what I've mentioned so far in regards to what has led to Charles' life being taken?
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God.
Many raised questions. Was this a lone act? Was it politically motivated? How could security at such event fail? What does it say about polarization and violence in modern American politics? These are the questions raised by you and I and everybody out there. Utah Valley University suspended classes. Authorities opened investigations. Lots of videos circulated. Anyone who knew him or posted him, followed him on social media, was forced to reckon with how deep divides in politics had become and what risks those divisions pose. Charlie Kirk's story is not an easy one. It's one of ideological certainty, of fiercely defended beliefs, of both supporters who found him inspiration or who found inspiration and critics who found him dangerous. But regardless of where one stood politically, his death marks a moment, yes, a moment that asks us some very heavy questions about free speech, about political violence, about how society handles dissent and disagreement. Like, you're driving a car, you are in a misunderstanding with somebody just brings out a gun. What will Charlie Kirk leave behind? Turning Point USA will continue. His many species and media content will persist. But perhaps his greatest impact was how he forced conversation, sometimes uncomfortably, about what activism looks like in the 21st century, about youth engagement, about how politics intersects with identity and belief. It's a very sad one. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section, how do you think political discourse in America has changed, and what lessons should emerge from this tragic event like this? Charles left a wife and a young family. So now, what are the possible lessons and warning? I have a couple of warning and lessons for you and I. 1. The cost of political polarization. When words become weapons, they can sometimes lead to real ones. Political disagreements are natural, but when rhetoric becomes dehumanizing or extreme, the danger of violence grows. Charlie Kirk's death is a reminder of how fragile civil discourse has become. It has become something that you can't just have a normal conversation. Lesson and warning number 2, the importance of non-violent engagement. No matter your beliefs, violence silences dialogue. If we want change, it must be through debates, elections, and peaceful protest. Never through acts that destroys lives and deepen division. Guys, what do you think about that? Number 3, lesson and warning. A warning about dehumanization. Every time we label opponents as enemies rather than fellow citizens. Yes, we are fellow citizens. We can't name our fellow citizens as enemies, right? We take one step closer to justifying harm. History has shown us that words can escalate into actions. The question is, do we want to repeat that cycle or stop it? Leave your thought and opinion in the comment section. Number 4, warning and advice. reflection for younger audiences. For young people entering into politics, Charlie Kirk's story shows both the power of activism and the dangers of a climate where ideological battles feels like wars. The challenge is not to avoid passion, but to channel it into constructive, not destructive paths. Can people actually do this? Can you and I do this even when people use social media as well with our words and thoughts? My last words, Charlie Kirk's death is not just about one man or one ideology. It is a wake-up call for all of us. The warning is clear. If political violence becomes normalized, democracy itself is at risk. The lesson is simple but hard. We must find a way back to dialogue, respect, and non-violence, even in the fiercest debates. Thank you so much for watching. Do not hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, share, join my membership, and I remain Uwemimo, also known as That Mama 5. May God rest the soul of Charlie Kirk. Thanks for watching. Bye.